So if you walk through a zoo, right, and you're just a visitor, you see a tiger.
Right, yeah.
And you might stop, read the little informational plaque on the fence, sort of check that box in your head, and then just move right along to the penguins.
Exactly. You've seen the tiger. Moving on.
Right. But a skilled zookeeper who's standing right next to you, they don't just see a quote-unquote tiger.
No, absolutely not.
They see an individual. They
Yes.
see, Raja, and they see this highly specific, really complex animal who, I don't know, maybe paces the perimeter of his enclosure whenever the barometric pressure drops.
Right, or, maybe he favors his left paw when he's feeling defensive or stressed.
Yes, exactly. And that is exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive, by the way. Today we're exploring this really radical framework that suggests the way you spot distress, whether that's in a school, an office, or even your own home, is by, well, thinking exactly like that zookeeper.
It is, honestly, it fundamentally challenges the way most organizations operate today.
It really does.
Because we are diving into a concept that was originally aimed at designated safeguarding leads. So the people who are responsible for student safety in schools.
Right.
But the implications here, I mean, they go so far beyond just education.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for you listening, this applies everywhere.
Right. And the core premise here is that the mechanisms we use to care for vulnerable populations, they're actually broken. And they're broken because they rely on the way a zoo visitor thinks rather than the way a zookeeper thinks.
Because we love to group things.
Exactly. We group people to make the world feel, I guess, manageable. But you simply cannot care well for individuals if you only understand the group.
Which makes sense because, the human brain is essentially this massive energy-saving machine, right?
Right.
We absolutely love categories. They reduce our cognitive load. Like if you step into a massive high school or, say, a sprawling corporate headquarters, you immediately start sorting people in your head.
Oh, instantly. You have to.
Right. You're like, okay, that's the marketing department over there, or those are the seniors. Oh, there's the introvert group.
Yeah, the classic labels.
It's a lot like walking into a huge library and just reading the genres on the shelves.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right, like you see the mystery section, so generally, okay, there's going to be a detective, there's going to be a plot twist, but you don't actually know the characters. You don't know the pacing or the specific ending of literally any single book in that row.
And that reliance on the genre, right, or the category, that is the very first mistake that leaders make when they're observing populations.
Wow, okay, unpack that a bit.
So when a visitor goes to the zoo, the label penguin tells them, what the animal eats, what temperature it prefers.
Got basics.
Right. It's a biological demographic, but it doesn't tell the keeper how this specific penguin reacts when it feels threatened. Two animals of the exact same species, they're going to respond differently, they communicate differently, and they will react completely differently under stress.
So taking that out of the zoo and bringing it into our world, into a human environment, our default is to group students or employees just to manage the sheer volume of people.
Exactly. The volume is overwhelming.
So a school might categorize kids as like the boarders or the year 9 boys or, the high achievers, the quiet students.
Yes. And the danger there is that the moment those labels replace individual understanding, the safety net just starts to fray. Because a child or an employee isn't a safeguarding type.
Right.
The danger is that the label creates this illusion of understanding, and that illusion breeds complacency.
Complacency. Because you think you already know what's going on.
Exactly. A teacher or a manager might look at someone who is labeled confident and just assume, oh, they are perfectly secure.
But they might not be.
Right. Because confidence can be this highly curated performance that's actively masking deep isolation or severe anxiety.
Wow. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Or consider the quiet label. We so often just accept quietness as a benign personality trait, Oh, sure. Like, oh, they're just shy.
Right. We assume they're low maintenance. They don't require our attention. But in reality, quietness is frequently an active strategy for masking distress.
Like they're just trying to be invisible.
Exactly. They are actively trying to not be seen.
And, I mean, there's the difficult label, right? Like, in a classroom, the difficult student gets disciplined. In a workplace, the difficult employee just gets put on a performance improvement plan.
Right. It's a behavioral problem to fix.
But framing it purely as a behavioral problem, that completely misses the underlying mechanism, right? Like, that friction is usually just a really clumsy, desperate way of communicating a profound unmet need.
Yes. which is why this operational categorization, even though it's so common, it is fundamentally flawed when it comes to well-being.
It just doesn't work.
It doesn't. If you only rely on that efficient label, you are treating complex human beings as static data points.
Right.
You end up applying a one-size-fits-all solution to a highly individualized crisis. Okay, but we have to pause and push back on that just a little bit, though.
Okay, sure.
Because if you are, say, a principal, and you're responsible for 800 students, or you're a middle manager with this massive division under you.
It's a lot of people.
It's a ton of people. You realistically cannot intimately know 800 different people.
No, of course not.
Right, so efficiency and categorization, they aren't just lazy shortcuts, right? They're absolute survival tools for leadership.
Right.
Like logistics demand labels. You need to know how many kids are in the sophomore class just to order enough textbooks.
No, you're absolutely right. Logistics absolutely demand categories. You have to use labels to organize the buses, the budgets, all of that.
Right.
But the vital distinction here, and this is what the source material really emphasizes, is recognizing where logistics end and human well-being begins. Efficiency is the enemy of observation.
That's a great way to put it.
If you try to scale safeguarding or mental health support using the same efficiency models that you use for ordering textbooks, you will fail.
Because humans aren't textbooks.
Exactly. The distress will slip right through the cracks because distress rarely aligns with those neat, tidy labels we assign to it.
Man, that's heavy. So if the labels fail us because they only offer this really superficial read, it means we have to look closer.
Yes.
But that brings up a much more difficult problem, I think, because the most critical signals that we actually need to observe, they aren't just subtle. They are actively designed to be invisible.
They are. And the evolutionary biology behind this is just fascinating.
Oh, I bet.
In the wild, showing weakness is a lethal mistake.
Right, obviously.
It increases your risk of becoming prey, it signals to your pack that you're a liability, and it directly threatens your survival.
So you hide it.
Exactly. Because of this, animals have developed this incredible instinct to conceal illness or injury. To appear weak is to feel fundamentally unsafe.
Wow.
An animal will literally pretend to be perfectly healthy, keeping pace with the herd, right up until the exact moment their body completely gives out.
So the evolutionary instinct that keeps a tiger alive in the wild is the exact same instinct that causes a teenager to, hide a panic attack.
It's the exact same mechanism, yes.
Because in the social ecosystem of a high school, vulnerability is perceived as social death.
Absolutely.
Students will hide anxiety or bullying or, severe distress at home because standing out just feels like putting a massive target on their own back.
Yes. And this is a professional reality that anyone in a leadership or caregiving role just has to internalize. People will almost always conceal distress long before they ever disclose it.
Because it's terrifying to disclose.
Right. They do not want to be a burden. They fear the consequences of an intervention, and they are terrified of losing their social standing.
So you just cannot assume that someone who seems quote-unquote fine is actually safe.
No, you can't. Fine is just the camouflage they're wearing to survive the environment.
This is so relevant. I mean, think about how this applies to the workplace, for you listening. How many times have you logged on to a morning video call feeling just completely burned out?
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. Maybe dealing with a massive personal crisis, but you just paste on a bright smile and say, everything's great, team.
Yeah.
Totally on top of the project.
Yep, the professional mask.
We all wear that camouflage because showing the cracks feels like a career risk.
It does.
We're terrified it's going to affect our next promotion or, how our peers view our competence. So my question is, if human beings are biologically and socially programmed to keep their distress hidden at literally all costs, how do we spot it?
It's the million-dollar question.
Right. How do you see something that is actively trying to remain invisible?
Well, the answer is surprisingly unglamorous.
Okay.
It isn't found in these dramatic interventions or deep psychiatric evaluations. The most powerful tool for exposing hidden danger is routine.
Routine.
Predictability.
Right.
A deeply established baseline.
I mean, routine sounds so operational, almost boring, honestly.
It does sound boring, but it's actually the exact mechanism that allows observation to happen.
Okay, how so?
Think about the zookeeper again. Animals physically downregulate their stress in environments that are predictable, consistent, and calm.
They need to know what's coming.
Exactly. Routine creates physical and emotional safety. And because an experienced keeper is deeply embedded in that daily routine, They don't wait for the animal to collapse to know it's sick.
They notice the small stuff.
They notice the tiny shifts. A slightly reduced appetite on a Tuesday. A really subtle change in the way an animal walks. Or, a shift in how it interacts with its cage mate.
Right.
These minute deviations from the norm, those are the early warning signs.
So when we apply that to human beings, the principle is identical.
Completely.
Students, employees, even our own family members, they feel safest with consistent adults and predictable systems.
Yes. Routine provides the foundation of emotional safety.
And when the environment is stable, that's when the camouflage starts to slip just a little bit, and the safeguarding signals become visible. But we aren't looking for massive cinematic red flags here. We are looking for, what do you call them, behavioral microchanges.
Microchanges, exactly. And you can only spot a microchange if you have a rock-solid understanding of the baseline. If a student who is normally highly interactive suddenly retreats to the back of the class and just stops raising their hand, that is a microchange.
Okay, let's push for a more counterintuitive example, though.
Sure.
Because dropping out and getting quiet, that's a classic sign we are all kind of trained to look for.
Really point.
What about the student who usually gets solid Bs and is generally pretty relaxed, who suddenly becomes obsessively perfectionistic?
Oh, that's a great example.
Like, they start panicking over a B+, constantly asking for extra credit, literally erasing their work until the paper tears. On paper, they look like a high achiever who's just leaning in.
Right, a success story.
Right. But that sudden, frantic shift in baseline is actually a massive microchange.
Yes.
It could signal intense new pressure at home, a developing anxiety disorder, or just a desperate need for control in a chaotic environment.
That is a perfect example of why the label fails and the baseline succeeds.
Yeah.
Another example might be the employee who is usually the very first to debate an idea in a meeting.
Oh, the devil's advocate.
Exactly. If they suddenly start agreeing with everything and just going with the flow, a bad manager thinks, great, they're finally being a team player.
Right, they're finally falling in line.
But an observant manager thinks they've completely disengaged. What's wrong?
Yes.
It all goes back to the absolute necessity of knowing what normal looks like for that specific individual.
It's exactly like driving your car every day.
Oh, tell me more.
Like, you know intimately how the engine sounds when you accelerate, right?
Sure, yeah.
You know, how the steering wheel pulls just slightly to the left, or how the brakes feel. So when there's a tiny, barely perceptible rattle coming from under the hood, you notice it instantly.
Yeah.
You might not know if it's the transmission or like a loose heat shield, but you know definitively that something has changed.
Right.
But if a stranger borrowed your car for the day, they would think it sounds perfectly normal because they're operating without a baseline.
The stranger relies on the label. It is a car, and it is moving forward.
Yes.
You rely on the intimate relational knowledge of that specific machine.
But, okay, this brings us right back to the scale problem.
Right.
Because we already established that a principal can't intimately know 800 students. A CEO can't know the daily baseline of 500 employees.
No, it's impossible.
So if spotting the invisible rattle requires deep familiarity, how does an organization actually build this without completely breaking down?
Well, it requires a structural redesign of how observation happens.
Okay.
It cannot be centralized. You can't have one school counselor or one HR representative acting as the sole observer for hundreds of people.
That's way too much pressure on one person.
Exactly. The baseline observation must be decentralized and woven into the actual fabric of the organization.
So mechanically, what does that look like?
In a school setting, it often looks like a mapping exercise.
Mapping exercise.
Yeah, so leadership will literally put the names or the faces of all 800 students on a wall, and the staff has to identify which kids they have a genuine relationship with.
Oh, wow.
Like which kids they actually know well enough to spot a microchange, and almost immediately you find the invisible kids.
That gives me chills.
It's sobering. You find the 40 or 50 students who no one truly knows.
So what happens then?
From there, you intentionally build systems mentorship pods, smaller advisory groups, consistent daily check-ins, just to ensure that every single individual is tethered to at least one adult who holds their baseline.
It's an ecosystem approach.
Exact.
You aren't asking every teacher to know everyone. You're just ensuring there are no dark corners in the habitat where someone can hide in plain sight.
Beautifully put.
But, using words like habitat means we really need to address the limits of this whole framework.
Yes, the honest bit, as the source calls it.
Right, because treating employees or students like zoo animals is, well, incredibly patronizing, and human beings are infinitely more complex than a penguin.
Absolutely. The framework has very strict boundaries, and crossing them is dangerous.
Right.
Students are not animals to manage, and humans are not creatures to be kept in an enclosure. A zookeeper is focused on animal care within a highly controlled, static habitat.
Right, they control the food, the temperature, everything.
Exactly. Human leaders are dealing with well-being within highly dynamic, emotionally complex environments. Humans have intricate social webs, they have evolving identities, and internal lives that animals just do not possess.
That's so messy.
It is. Safeguarding and leadership are relational practices, not exercises in behavioral control. You can't just provide a clean workspace, drop food off at noon, and expect human beings to thrive.
No, because our environment is incredibly porous. And that brings us to the concept of emotional contagion, right?
Yes.
Because in the zoo, animals are highly responsive to the ambient energy of their keepers. If the keeper walks in radiating anxiety, rushing their movements, the tiger instantly becomes defensive and stressed.
Humans are remarkably similar in this regard.
We really are.
The atmosphere of an environment dictates whether someone feels safe enough to actually drop their camouflage. Leaders, whether they realize it or not, set the emotional weather of the room.
So what does this mean for the leaders listening? It sounds like if a leader is emotionally volatile, like if they run hot and cold and the team never knows which version of the boss is walking through the door, the entire habitat, the whole environment, becomes fundamentally unsafe.
That is exactly what happens.
And when the habitat is unsafe, everyone immediately redirects all their energy away from learning or working and channels it into scanning the environment for threats.
Yes,
Yeah.
they put the mask of fine right back on. So preventing this requires a very specific skill set from leadership.
What skill set is that?
It requires what experts call well-being literacy.
Well-being literacy. Okay, unpack that for us.
Yeah.
What does that actually look like in practice beyond just being, a corporate buzzword?
Right, it sounds like jargon, but it's very real.
Mm-hmm.
Well-being literacy is the tangible capacity to read a room, regulate your own emotional output, and understand the downstream impact of your stress. It is a leader recognizing that their frustration over, say, a budget cut is visibly leaking into how they speak to their team.
Which makes the team anxious.
Exactly, which in turn causes their team to shut down and hide their own struggles.
Right.
A leader with high well-being literacy knows that creating emotional safety isn't about being overly permissive or just constantly cheerful. It is about being emotionally consistent.
Because consistency breeds trust.
Yes. And trust is the only currency that buys you a look behind someone else's mask.
Man, the core journey of this entire framework is profoundly challenging.
It really asks a lot of us.
It does. I mean, we started by dismantling the safety of our labels.
Yeah.
We realized that organizing people as high achievers or troublemakers might help with the logistics, but it actively blinds us to human reality.
Right.
We explore the evolutionary truth that vulnerability hides, because weakness feels like a literal threat to survival.
Which is such a massive paradigm shift.
Completely. And we found that the only way to penetrate that natural camouflage is by establishing a deep, routine baseline so that the tiny, counterintuitive microchanges become obvious.
Yes.
And ultimately, none of this observation is possible unless the leaders orchestrating the environment are emotionally regulated enough to make it safe to be seen.
It shifts the entire burden of care.
It really does.
It moves us away from waiting for individuals to dramatically wave a red flag, and instead demands that we become sharp enough to notice when the flag is just slightly frayed.
Slightly frayed, well.
Care begins with deep relational awareness, not superficial familiarity. When people are truly known, hidden distress simply cannot stay invisible for long.
So there's a carrying question that emerges from this framework, and it's one you should take into your own life today.
Yes.
Look around your office, your classroom, or your family dinner table. Which people in your setting are quietly hiding their vulnerability right now? And do you know them well enough to notice the micro changes before a crisis hits?
It is the essential question for anyone who wants to support the people around them.
Absolutely.
But let's turn the lens inward for a moment to close this out.
Okay.
We have spent this deep dive analyzing how to be the observant keeper, the empathetic leader, the watchful guide for others.
Right.
But are you currently broadcasting your own fine label while quietly managing a rattling engine?
Oh, wow.
If we are all biologically programmed to hide our vulnerabilities to survive, perhaps the bravest, most disruptive thing you can do tomorrow is to intentionally let your own camouflage slip.
That's terrifying.
It is. But let your keepers, your trusted friends, your family, your close colleagues actually see the micro changes you are trying so hard to hide.
That is so powerful. Because you can't just read the genre of everyone else's book. You have to let someone read the pages of yours.
Beautifully said.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it inspired you to look past the efficient labels, to notice the quiet shifts in the baseline, and to truly understand the complex human beings around you. Until next time.